right, I am going to get us started. So welcome everybody. Let me share my screen really quickly. And okay. So we are, it's Readiness and Adoption Committee. We are in meeting number 32, if that sounds believable. So let me do a walkthrough of our agenda. Welcome everybody. So the first part of our session is just welcoming people into the meeting and having people engage in the chat and tell us where they're at. So as people are joining, if you want to join in and contribute to that, we love an active chat in our meeting. So feel free to let us know where you're coming from, and we will use that space also to share any resources and links that we can to the information that we talk about today. We're going to spend a little time talking about our, that should say July 15th, sorry, July 15th speaker follow-up, who's coming up at our next speaker session on August 19th. We'll get into a few project updates, and then if there's any input from the one-on-one support group, we can touch base on that, and then following up with any action team breakouts at the end if there's time for that. So kick us off. It's just a recap of on July 15th, we had Hannah Lipstein from the Distributed AI Research Institute who came and presented on greening AI in the public sector, which was an introductory handbook for procurement of AI, really focusing on how to ensure that there's environmental elements that are considered when we are procuring AI tools for our agencies, and how to be responsive to some of the concerns that agencies and employees and communities have had about data centers and their usage of environmental resources and a variety of other, environmental concerns along with AI. So, that guidebook was developed by Hannah in a partnership with GovAI Coalition and Data and Society, and it's a great resource if you haven't had a chance to look at it. It was shared around in the newsletter as well. And, just an overall great resource for people to utilize if you can. Sean, I don't know if you can share that link to that handbook in the chat, but that would be great if you could, so that people could access that if they weren't here at the last meeting, or at least point them to where they can find that on the coalition site. And so I wanted to open up to feedback if anybody had any, it's been a couple of weeks since we had that session, but I don't know if people have actually had a chance to utilize the concepts from that handbook, or have been thinking about them, or had any further thought around the information that was presented by Hannah at the last session. But, I really encourage you to raise your hand and share any thoughts that you have about that. So I'll give you a moment to think and raise your hand or throw something in the chat if you're interested in talking about the speaker that we had last time. And thank you, Sean has just shared the greening in the AI public sector link in the chat. So if you want to open that up and take a look through it, that's also there for you to look at. So did anybody have any thoughts or ideas that they wanted to share from that session? I know there's been a lot of feedback and a lot of in the press about the environmental costs of data centers and elements like that. And in some of the post-reporting or post-meeting follow-up, I shared some of the polls that Albert had conducted at the beginning of the meeting, or in the middle of that meeting, about, what people are experiencing around data centers. So and I see something note from Ben that the link doesn't appear to be working. There seems to be an error there. Let me see if I can open it, Ben. Yeah, it does say there's like a blockage to the link. So we will get that cleared up and see if we can give you an updated link to that information. It may be an issue with the Data and Society website. So, um, but well, if you got the meeting follow-up from the last meeting, it does have a link to that. Hopefully that works. But if not, I will share out the link in the next post-meeting follow-up that comes out after this meeting. So everybody will have access to that. Marty, I see that you put in there that there's a sustainable procurement policy. Do you want to talk about that at all or make any comment to that, to the larger group beyond your?
Sure. And I just put a very cryptid, does this link work without a link? I put in a new link to that resource, Screening AI in the Public Sector, see if
Oh,
that
that
one,
does
does
work.
that work? I just did a
Yes,
quick Google.
it does.
Um,
Great.
yeah, I'm so excited for this resource because we in Salt Lake City, we just updated our AI policy and we included some environmental impact language. And then we learned that our sustainability department has sustainable procurement. They have a sustainable procurement policy, which I hadn't come across while I've been working on this AI policy. And so now we've directed staff to follow that. But I'm really excited to get into this to see where our sustainability department and our procurement team and our AI work kind of all come together, and what we may have missed. So haven't gotten into this yet, but I'm really excited too. I think it's going to be a really useful resource.
That's great. We'd love to hear any feedback from that in a future meeting too, because I think it's important that sort of getting everything and all those things converging, right? To help the
Yeah.
policy.
Yeah, and if you're from a big city, I mean, gosh, like I mean, I think it's just an adventure every day to learn new things. Like, oh, we have that? That's amazing.
Yeah,
But now it's like, yeah, can we improve it? And now can we get it up to speed with AI, right? So that's where we're at. So yeah,
absolutely.
happy to follow up with you once I've done some of that work, Rich, and then we can talk.
Great. Thank you so much, Marty. Great to hear that feedback. Anybody else have any feedback about the greening in the AI in the public sector handbook? Okay, I am going to move us forward. So I wanted to give some space to who's coming in on August 19th, the second meeting of every month. This is the second Readiness and Adoption Committee meeting is focused on a guest speaker. And on August 19th, we're going to have Alton Hinley from Montgomery College, and he's going to be talking about why smaller agencies may get left out of the AI conversation and how to close the readiness gap. And he spent some time doing some research on some ICMA data and thinking about how smaller public agencies may be underrepresented and may not have the resources that other agencies have to move some of these AI related, readiness elements forward in their agencies. So he's going to be coming and talking about that research that he's done. He's built a readiness assessment that's available for people, and we're going to discuss just broadly, can the coalition help close that readiness gap and how to make AI adoption resources accessible and actionable for agencies of all size. So really looking forward to him coming on August 19th and talking about that. Our membership at the coalition, I know, spans agencies of all sizes. So, we really want to think about, how we can help agencies that may be smaller, may not have some of the resources that some of our mid to large size agencies have. So, and what the coalition can do about that. So, really excited about that conversation coming up. And mark your calendars. So, our next area is our project updates, and we only have one project update today, and I am going to turn this over. I don't know who, either Rick or Lon, are going to check in about the status of AI training, but I'll turn it over to you.
Hi. You hear me okay, Rich?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Indeed, we will talk about what celebrating some accomplishments and also pointing out opportunities. I see some newer members join today's call, so we're going to highlight some newer opportunities that you're all welcome to join. And so the first one is about the awareness in these 4 pillars of our working group's efforts. The first one is about producing playbooks that are plug and play style. So just the last week, Marty, who spoke earlier, already mentioned about an official launching of this first Get Your Organization Ready for AI Training playbook. So you can find links at the coalition's knowledge base in YouTube as well. So well done, Marty, and all the people who supported that playbook. The 2 more such similar playbooks will be launched officially at the coalition level in the coming month. Also, some newer opportunities include a few new ideas that are being shaped up to be the next wave of playbooks, including leadership, user innovation, vibe coding, etc. So get in touch with us and you'll find out more details. And the second pillar about skills certification, mind you that this is different from the certificate programs out there, which is just, hey, you participate in a training, now here's a certificate you can put up on the wall. This is a full career path supported certification, in that if a aspiring professional takes it, they get certified, and then it can be leveraged to support their career growth. Some other examples include, say, cybersecurity. There are a few certifications such as CISSP, etc. So this is one of the newer, fast developing pillar, and we have come up with some foundational materials, so ready to invite more people to come in and join the exam development task force. And in the task force, you get to guide the development of this whole program and also provide feedback. There is a team of mentors and students who are focusing on this part-time and full-time till mid-September, culminating in a pilot training with the University of Tennessee in mid-November. So currently, besides that, the mid-November training, there's also a more comprehensive training of 12 weeks long. The first one is just 2 hours long as the fundamentals course. The second one is the expert level course. So both are in full development mode right now, and interested members can reach out to us following the link. There is an email that people can send to, and you can then be invited. The third pillar is about outcomes. So some people said, hey, this AI thing is best achieved via personal learning process and services. So that's what this third pillar is about. It focuses on achieving outcomes together and via collaboration. So right now, the focus is for this group of about 20 people this summer to enable the certification pillar. And also another update is a MOU that's being finalized between the Institute for Local Government and Cybertrust America, one of both our partners. And that MOU will allow the governments in the state of California to leverage affordable and high quality services in cybersecurity and AI. And lastly, about the pillar of metrics. So we like to tell stories, but if we don't measure our outcomes, then it's hard to communicate. So there's also effort to measure our accomplishments. So far, some built-in metrics, demos, and methodologies have been shared across the board for local governments who adopt AI tools. And in the next phases, probably more will be shaping up to measure all of these pillars' outcomes. So with that, Rich, I think that summarizes our updates so far and also call for action and invites to people who are interested in joining.
Great. Thanks, Lon. Sounds like a lot of great work going on still with the training group. And I see on the join us here, like, do you have guidance for people if they're interested in any of these projects on how to join you?
Yeah, indeed. I will send the email out now in the chat window.
Great. So if you're interested in joining along on any of these project areas within the AI training working group, reach out to her through the email she's going to share. They're always looking for new people to help out with all of the hard work they're doing there.
And then also we should just do a quick call out. Andrew Nui gave a presentation in our last call on Monday, and there's an extended presentation around this user innovation initiative he's looking to do that might end up becoming a playbook. So I posted something in that Slack channel around that. And then I also, the upcoming meeting will have the Innovate US team just talking about their upcoming program. So the AI training Slack channel, there's a little bit of, anybody's welcome to do that. I know most government people don't have much time for Slack, but that's where we're trying to get the word out about these types of events.
Great. Thank you, Rick. All very exciting work. I'm interested to hear more about what Andrew's put together for that potential playbook content. So more to come, hopefully. That is all of our project updates. I just want to open it up to any of the project people that might be on the call. If you have anything you want to check in briefly about, I know we had several people that were out for today's session that weren't able to make it, especially in policing and fire. So we'll hopefully catch up with them in our next meeting. Okay, I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about a potential project area that I've been interested in and see if it feels like a fit for this committee and get the committee's feedback. I've been interested in working on thinking about as agencies move from AI awareness to actual adoption, A lot of our conversation is focused on opportunity, rightfully so, like how this is improving service, reducing administrative burden, expanding staff capacity, helping employees work more effectively. But I've also been reading and hearing about some concepts that I think could be, potentially thinking about how, as AI becomes embedded in the work, how do we make sure it strengthens human and organizational capability? And so this is some concepts I've been sort of tinkering with about, that sort of straddles between skills, but also organizational capacity and capability. And so there's sort of three areas I've been exploring, like, and thinking about in terms of like cognitive offloading, capacity hollowing, and AI reinforced groupthink. And so just briefly walking through these, cognitive offloading is like the transfer of mental work to a tool like AI. And some of that is exactly what we want. We already offload our memory, our calculations with a calculator, navigation, formatting, other routine tasks to technology. And it can free employees from low value effort, create more room for higher level work. Some of the concerns I've been aware of is when people begin offloading not only sort of routine effort, but also analysis, critical thinking, problem solving, all things which judgment and expertise are developed. So, for example, if AI is consistently producing a first draft or doing analysis or giving you a recommended answer, are employees still building and exercising underlying capability needed to address that work independently? And capacity hollowing is kind of the organizational version of that concern, that over time an agency could gain efficiency while gradually losing internal knowledge, skill depth, institutional memory, or the ability to perform and oversee important work without a particular tool or vendor. Like if the vendor or tool went away suddenly, or, would we still be able to do this work? This could, I think could be really significant for entry-level work because some of the routine assignments are also how employees learn the fundamentals they need for more advanced roles. And so the third concept is like AI reinforced groupthink. AI can absolutely broaden thinking by generating alternatives, identifying considerations, challenging assumptions. But if many people in an organization are using the same tools or same prompts, is there also a possibility that recommendations become more unified and you start losing independent analysis, different perspectives, or constructive dissent? So, I see these sort of all as related, and at the individual level, people may rely more heavily on AI to perform parts of their thinking. If that happens broadly, the organization may be impacted. If employees are working from similar AI generated frames, what are we losing in terms of diversity of thought and independent challenge? And, I want to emphasize that I see this as a pro AI adoption project. It's not an argument for limiting AI use, but the goal here would be to help agencies adopt more confidently and sustainably by considering these issues during implementation rather than discovering them after the fact and long-term after skill loss has already been, happened at the agency. So I was sort of noodling this and thinking about a possible output could be some sort of practical local government resource, with readiness questions, a checklist, some implementation safeguards, some simple monitoring tools, and how people can start thinking about these concepts. It might help agencies identify which human capabilities really need to be preserved, where independent first analysis may be appropriate, how to maintain employee development pathways, how to build alternative viewpoints into decision making, and how to test whether critical work can continue if suddenly a tool is unavailable. So I was sort of interested in getting feedback from the working group. Does this feel like it addresses a real gap and seem like something that this committee should pursue? I'd be interested in anybody that has some thoughts around it. So, and Albert has a question in the chat about have folks seen cognitive offloading in their orgs? So I'd really, like to think about this and whether this is like an output that the committee would be interested. I'm interested in working on it for sure, and don't know if people have thoughts about how it fits within what we're trying to accomplish. And feel free to mute and unshare too. I see a lot of stuff happening in the chat. So
Um, hey, Rich.
Great.
Um, would also I'd love to hear from Alice and other folks that are talking in the chat. One thing that's just coming to mind for me is it feels like I wonder what folks on the call have seen around just good managerial tactics. This is an oversimplification, but oftentimes in my mind, I think of AI as like a direct report for me.
Yeah.
And I have had to learn skills on how to manage the information I get from my direct reports, like ways to triangulate facts and criticize things and poke and prod and then so I'm wondering, especially for some of our folks on the call, like what's the type of managerial training that you're getting, or does that does that resonate with you as well?
Um, I'll just jump on Albert and Rich. This is something really interesting. I think that this is a really interesting question, Rich. I've been thinking a lot about this because I've noticed just in myself having, because we have Copilot, Enterprise, and I have the upgraded license at work and everything. Everybody in the AI working group does. But in my personal life, I use Claude and I have, the licensed version of Claude. And Claude is so good that it's like you constantly have to be reminding yourself that like this is a machine, it's based on a server connected to the wall. Like it's very like easy to get into this cognitive offloading situation where you're just you're like, oh, I don't need to read that. Let me just give it to this. Let me just get a summary of it. Like, let me find every shortcut. And that is cool. And I think there's like this process that every one of us on this call who goes through this process of like, you get really excited and you're like, let me use this for everything. And like, you kind of go overboard with it where you're just like, I'll give it every task I have, right? And so then you have to like practice some self-restraint, right? Because also these models are so good that you actually really have to rein it in. Like you have to really restrain yourself. Like it's a practice in self-restraint, I think. And then I've also been thinking about it because, and I dropped the link there in the chat to the Future of Life's pro-human AI declaration, because they are talking a lot about protecting human agency and liberty, and obviously keeping humans in charge. But part of that is what they call avoiding enfeeblement. So AI systems should be designed to empower rather enfeeble their users.
I love that phrase.
And I do think that everything that you're talking about, Rich, with capacity hollowing, cognitive offloading, independent thinking, reinforcing groupthink, these are real concerns. The more that you start using these AI tools in your day to day, and I mean, it's downright addictive. Like you can like it does get to the point where you're like, you use it all the time for everything, right? So this is a real part of when you look at AI enablement, right? The same way that we have guardrails to protect our data, we have guardrails in place, our AI policy, acceptable use guidelines to protect the data. We have to look at protecting human capacity. How do we put guardrails in place to protect that capacity? To your point, especially with the younger generation now, where like we have colleagues here who are talking about how you can't get people to write a report because they don't actually really know how to write a paragraph because they just use AI for everything. And like, I don't, we can talk about whether that's actually true or not. Like that may not be the case across the board, but there is a real concern about this hollowing of capacity, right? And so because I see it in myself, right? I see it in myself of like this idea of you get so into it and you get so in the flow that you just want to use it for everything. And so therefore, part of your analytical capacity is getting undermined when you're using it to summarize everything, or not everything, but like, long pieces of text or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I do think, and especially, given the fact that people like shortcuts, we're talking about making things more productive, but where is the trade-off between productivity gains and this capacity hollowing? I think that's a really interesting question. In the forum of talking about AI enablement, like we're about to do this big thing about our co-pilot enablement, change strategy and executing all the trainings and all the ways that we're going to do that. I think this is a really important part of that is like, how do you put this into an enablement strategy and think about how do you protect those human specific, extremely necessary capacities that are intellectually important? And I think that's a really interesting question. And I like it.
Yeah, just thanks for that feedback, Alice. Really helpful. And I've had the same experience where I use it quite a lot, especially large language model. I use that quite a lot. But I also have a breadth of experience. I'm often telling, so, oh, okay, I see you've got this, but you had left out X, Y, Z, but I'm in a different stage of career than some people that might be coming in early in their careers. And I was just thinking about like, what does this mean to those people that we're trying to develop in our agencies? And what are the impacts? So I just want to, I see some hands raised. Andrew, do you want to chat?
Yeah, so sorry, I just joined, but what Alice has been talking about, I'm deeply concerned, particularly in the future of human work too. We are, if you're familiar with the system one and system two thinking, focused thought is system two. And so the mind constantly looks at the opportunities for shortcuts to transfer system two into a system one automatic way of doing things. And so the significant concern with offloading cognition and thinking, and you can outsource production, but the number one thing that you cannot outsource is comprehension, sense making, and understanding. And so I think that's a crucial part in terms of how we make sure that is addressed going forward from not just a governance perspective, but ultimately also how do we even train people how to think critically? Because I think that's being, in so many ways, at least in my mind, not being addressed.
Great. Thank you, Andrew. I agree. And it's like, I wonder if there's a way AI could help us build that capacity into our prompting and how we engage with those tools. So, Pardue, do you have your hand raised?
Yeah, this is my first meeting ever for the GovAI Coalition stuff, so I'm pretty new.
Welcome. Yeah.
Thank you. Basically, I could probably echo some of the stuff said previously in the chat. I think, or like in this conversation, I think it's very important for critical thinking to be in place, but the question is how does that happen? How do we stop and think? That means when we're chatting with AI, there should be safeguards which are like, hey, are you sure you want to continue with this route? Or are you sure if AI asks those questions? I'll give an example. When vibe coding and using Replit, for example, in vibe coding, it asks, are you really sure you want to go ahead with this? Right? So it asks those questions. When those questions are asked, it could create better critical thinking. So I think in terms of like if there's any guardrails that could be in place or implemented in like the different organizational systems in Copilot, Gemini, wherever it may be, that could be helpful. And then also another thing is AI sycophancy. I know there's a lot of people they talk about, hey, it's like, oh, like they just get so immersed when conversing with AI because it just keeps going on their side and repeating back what they want, right? And I think it's also that shows why it's critical to have critical thinking when using AI, because you could fall down that same trap that we fall down in social media and other places. I think having proper education policies around it, having seeing if AI can be configured where it could have those double checking questions on the route that it's going. And also making sure that we don't like blindly use it without fact checking or double checking. I personally, whenever I see AI information, I don't trust it right off the bat. I double check it online. I go to a credible, authoritative resource, whether it's peer reviewed or something else. But those are some of my thoughts.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing. Those are really, I think, important, steps and things for us to think about as we're engaging with the tools. And I'm already thinking in my head about, okay, how can we sort of, operationalize it to help people and give some guidance around it. Eric, I see your hands raised also.
Yes. Yeah, I'm here. You got me?
Yeah.
So operationally, one thing that we do at our firm, and again, I work for a consultant, but we work with 400 plus communities, of which literally I'm writing a solution right now in Cloud Code. But you can actually, we built a harness. So inside Cloud Code, so that when we're working stuff, it actually validates through the harness. So there's like a data hygiene layer, and there's all these stop gaps and checks that kind of back check all these different data validation layers. So that's operationally as part of the solution. But just in general guidance that I've been giving to the communities that I'm working with is we always start with the design. We sketch something out first, right? Where are the pain points? Where are the problems? We always like to say dull, dirty, dangerous, right? AI is really good at those types of tasks. And then we go, okay, now where can AI fit in this equation? Now, where should it fit into this equation? The other part is, as public servants, obviously you need to face your public first, right? That should always be the first line of defense. It should never be an AI agent or bot or anything like that, a solution like that. So we always pitch our services and solutions as supplementary to those resident-facing experiences. But yeah, I mean, honestly, my big takeaway on this is I always like to tell people it's like, if you're going to summarize a doc or do something like that, that dull, tedious work, right? You'd rather be designing solutions or helping out the public, right? But if it's, council meeting minutes or whatever, AI can do that pretty simply, right? And then it's a matter of citing your sources, double checking, and not getting to those issues where I just saw another one where someone published a travel book and literally the prompt was on like chapter 2. It was like literally embedded in there. So it's definitely a good question to ask.
Great. Thank you so much. That's really helpful information, Eric, and thank you for that feedback. Lon?
Hi, fascinating discussion here about critical thinking. It's perfect timing. I would love for the team working on the certification to be able to incorporate all of these discussion points into the training as well as the test questions, so that the certification holder has demonstrated the competencies to be capable of critical thinking. Also, I noticed that there are several people who have interest or background in governance, safety guardrails, etc. So I wanted to just share that which also is very much tied with everyone's conversation about AI cannot be trusted before you verify it. In contrary to the phrase made very popular by President Reagan, right? Trust but verify. I love what Andrew put down here. So new era, new phrase, verify before trust. So one example is the recent OpenAI models escaping the sandbox. And now that alone, is a watershed moment, right? Because previously people were thinking that it's theoretically possible, but now we've seen it with our own eyes now that it happened. And also it's right away hacked into Hugging Face production environment. So that says something that for all local governments, someone also mentioned that traditionally we're a little bit behind. So, but you can't be behind on such important, like 0-day scenarios. So some things need to happen. And I was thinking of maybe working out maybe a task force or some way of collaboration among us to provide the awareness to the broader community and to also provide some guidance. For example, one piece of learning from the OpenAI incident is that, hey, if you have sandboxes, you're going to make sure that your safety guardrails cannot be turned off, number one. And number two, you also want to make sure that your insurance policies have particular languages to include AI agents. So you need to make a review of your policies to see, hey, if it mentions employees, contractors in the language, then AI agents are not covered. So, but if it's more general, then you're good. So things like that will all need to be looked at with a fresh perspective. Alice mentioned about change management. So this change management covers pretty much every dimension of the governance and the government functions. So I just want to mention that. I'll post my email in the chat window to see if anyone is interested in joining me and we can stand up something under this umbrella or whatever that may make sense.
Yeah, thank you, Lon, so much. Yeah, I'm definitely interested in, thinking about these three concepts here and how they impact capabilities and what we can do to provide guidance to people. If people are interested and want to sort of help think about that and sort through that, I'd love you to reach out to me and we could maybe start thinking about what this might look like and bring it back to the committee and get some feedback. Albert, did you have any thoughts at all? I know you put some stuff in the chat. So.
Yeah, I'll just real quick, and then I need to drop. But this is actually bringing me back a lot to my consulting days. This question of I have and I say this with love to my consultants on the call. I have this hyperactive, work person that's capable of working around the clock, trying to frantically answer all of my questions, and is trying to do so in a way that sounds incredibly competent because that's part of the job. And when managing those consultants, like, as the project leader on the consultant team, is like, what are all the tips and approaches that I take to ensure, because I also have very limited time, like to ensure that what I'm getting from the my subordinate, or in this case my AI tool, the right answer. And so I really do invite, especially some of the everyone on the call, but this is such a foundational problem that public sector, private sector is all dealing with. I really do invite our folks to try and just start sharing the best practices that we've been using to double check these things. And I think this is a really cool place to consolidate those ideas into a single place that we can share with the coalition.
Great. I love that idea. So, yeah, so I'll summarize these in our post-meeting follow-up, but it's great to hear all this feedback, and I feel like we've gone down a couple of paths here. So but I love the idea of thinking through some of these things and some of these concepts and seeing if there is something that we can provide that might be of value to the coalition and the members of the coalition. So more to come. And thank you so much for the feedback. And, if any of this seems interesting and feel free to reach out to me and we can sort of figure out if there's capacity to meet and talk about these some more in a smaller group of the committee and bring it back to the larger committee at some point. So thank you so much. I just wanted to also give a heads up. In our first meeting in September, I wanted to spend some time outside of our project check-in. I was talking with Albert a little bit about getting a handle again on what our committee member needs might be, and sort of getting an understanding. The committee's been around for a while and we've morphed a couple of times and gotten some different perspectives and views and services within the committee, but we thought it might be time to start thinking about, what do our current member demographics look like? Who's working on AI in your agencies? Where do they really need help in terms of readiness and adoption? What levels of maturity and readiness are different agencies at with this? And sort of think about, from that needs assessment, where do we go? And does that impact things that we need to do as a committee or output that we want to commit to? So we're planning a sort of a live interactive Miro session on a Miro board just to sort of do some brainstorming around where we are thinking about the needs of the people that we're trying to help, and sort of getting us recalibrate a little bit on that. So that will be a part of the next project meeting in the beginning of September. So, and we've done these Miro sessions in this committee before. Some of you might have been participating in them if you have been with the committee for a while. But I thought it might be a good opportunity to do some brainstorming and wrap our heads around that. So, so look forward to that. And then, Sahar, do you have anything you want to check in about one-on-one support sessions?
Hey, Rich. Thanks. Nothing other than just saying it or reminding folks that we have this facility available. If you have any questions, if you're getting ready, or you have in your AI journey, if you have if you need any help, you can set it up. We have 3 different areas that support can be provided. And thank you, Sean. Sean posted the link. You can fill out the form and select which area you would be interested in getting the help. And we can provide you, schedule a time and provide you guidance, and we can learn from each other. So we do have here and there, but it's I'm assuming folks are more it's maybe they don't need that basic level of help maybe. And your session that we were talking about earlier, Rich, that to do the demographics and see where the maturity level is and things like that, be good to know and see where we can focus providing our help and support.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Sahar. And, just to reinforce, this is a great tool and opportunity for, people that have questions in any of these main 3 areas, community engagement, data governance, and policy, to, get some free one-on-one support, really focused support for where you're at in your agency. You can, even broader than training, this is really customized sort of conversations that you can have and get some support on. So really want to encourage you to take advantage of this. And if there's people here, agencies that are struggling with some of these areas, but they can't come to the committee meetings, if your agency's a member, they can still use this service. So, make sure to, market this within your agencies too, if you have people that, could use some support in these areas. And Eric, I see your comment there about 15%. I would agree with that. And I think there's such a range of maturities, right, of agencies and where they're at in their AI journeys. And, that's only going to get more dispersed as people start, exploring all of these areas. So I think it's good for us to kind of keep our heads focused on what are the needs and understanding the diversity of needs across our member agencies at the coalition and how our committee specifically can help them. I mean, we've got so many initiatives going on now that, the need is going to be great because everybody's at different stages and everybody might need somewhat different help and in different places in their journey. So I thought it was a good time to recalibrate and say, okay, are we doing what we can do? And is there more we can be doing? And do we have the capacity to help in these areas? So, really looking forward to talking about that in the next session. So,
Hey, Alice, Rich, I see Alice posted a question on what kind of help and support. Is it specific to Copilot or any particular tool? I would say these appointment-based individualized sessions are for a more sort of readiness in your agency adoption of AI, just general guidelines on, if you have a policy or you need any help in governing AI once you have AI, or you're in the beginning of the phase where you're still articulating a policy or having a policy implemented, and if you need advice on how to set up or how to write or develop a policy, we have a number of templates and examples on our website, the coalition website. But everybody's journey is different, and folks have different areas that they get stuck in. Some organizations are really small that not necessarily have a dedicated IT department and need help in that area, or things like that, based on the size and nature of your organization. So not necessarily each particular tool, but general guidelines on when you have those tools, what kind of policy you can have to protect your agency, your employees, and everything to proper use of AI, holding vendor accountable, how to manage that. We have AI fact sheets and stuff like that to evaluate what type of solution vendor is providing, where your maturity level is to handle that type of stuff. And even the data governance, or like community engagement, citizens or other people having questions or seeing what the responsible way of doing that. So long story short, not necessarily specific to any particular tool in my knowledge. Rich, do you agree?
yeah. And
Alice,
Andrew
sorry.
seems to have a question too. Is there a way to sign up if you want to offer expertise to help other agencies?
So Andrew, that is, if you're talking about other agencies, first thing would be that they join our coalition, and from that, there is the whole path of how to prepare yourself to be able to use or adopt AI and things like that. And within that, like if you're, there's the whole thing about the 0 to 90 days, how to get started, how to do all of that. And within that, there are different areas. If you are somewhat in the in the scale of where you are from your day one to the good usage of AI. So I don't know what you mean, Andrew.
If I can clarify, if that's okay.
Sure.
What I basically mean is, we have been in the coalition for a while. We've been doing a lot of different things. Is there a sign up for people like us who could help, or how does it work?
Are you talking about in these three areas that are
Yeah,
here?
yeah, right.
Yeah.
In these three
Like
areas,
you want
for
to be
example, if
somebody
I
people
wanted to
could,
help somebody else,
like if he wanted to be somebody that could offer
right, exactly.
feedback to people
Yeah,
in these areas,
yeah,
could he sign on to be?
yeah. Is there a way to sign up, or like how can we do that?
So, Andrew, are you saying the existing members, new people? What is
So,
it that?
somebody needs help. They could be new or whatever. Like we have done it in the city of Kansas City. We can speak to the experience. Like, can we be on this list that if somebody needs help, we can help them? Or do you have to go through training or?
So this was posted a little bit earlier. This link
Oh,
that I posted, that is how you can fill out a form to see what kind of help you need. Is it general? Is it policy related? Is it, what type of help? Or
but
even
I don't need the
Yes,
help.
sir. He wants to be the coach, the helper.
Right.
Like how could, like I know, like Sahar, you're over policy. I think Liz does the community engagement, and we have a couple of people that do the data governance. But is there a way Andrew could sign up to be one of the people that does these one-on-one appointments with other people?
I see. You want to be the helper.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like how can other people in the agency who have progressed further than everybody else be part of, because we come in needing help, but then we've progressed. And so now then the question is, can we also help others as we go along, right? It's like a two-way street in that sense. You come in needing help, you progress, you grew, you learn things. Now we can put us to work. That's what I'm saying. So you basically grow the thing organically.
You're a resource that somebody can say, hey, go talk to Andrew to get more about boots on the ground implementation.
Absolutely. I mean, yes, I think that's a good question. We can also bring it up, and I also see Carol saying that maybe another forum for people who would like to impart knowledge or experience, share their experience, and help other folks. So yeah, I mean, we are in need of those people all the time to be part of the communities or be able to help those seeking help. So yeah, we can definitely discuss that. I don't think right now there is any form or anything available for people to sign up to be able to provide help, but we can get back to you and discuss that to see if we can collect that kind of information as well.
We can discuss with Albert and maybe incorporate that into the forum. Clement, I see your hand raised.
Hi. So I've been reading through and helping other agencies in my field. I'm more in the procurement side. I'm not in the IT side, but I'm on a lot of the committees for procurement associations and all that. So I've mentioned GovAI to a lot of different places, like different organizations that are in the procurement side, contracts and sourcing and all that. And I mean, from an outside of GovAI capacity, I've mentioned GovAI and shown agencies how to take the lead on it and even train folks. But that's a good question to Andrew asked, because I think I could probably help out like in that sense as well, because we're already doing it outside of GovAI, but how do we do it within the structure of GovAI?
Yeah, great. Thank you. And I love this idea that there are people who have been through this or who are experts, and we can connect people to experts more broadly. So Sahara, you can explore this idea some more with Albert and figure out how to embed it into our sort of support for agencies. So. And I know it's a little bit after 1. I know a lot of people have to leave, so thank you so much for your time today. If you have to leave, Sahar, were you starting to say something?
No, that's all. Like whatever you said, we can discuss that and get back. This is another very great session. Thank you all for attending, and thank you, Rich, for always giving your best.
All right. Thanks, everybody, and really appreciate the conversation today and the exploring some different areas and thoughts about what we might do to help. So more to come soon, and looking forward to seeing everybody on the 19th for our next speaker session. And hope you have a great day. Thank you so much.